Okay, hi everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, great. I'll try to hang out right here because I'm not mic'd, but our speakers are. So if I get too far away, just wave your hands, and I'll start screaming, or I'll stand closer to the mic. Welcome to our session. I'm so glad everybody could make it. It's a full room. It's very exciting. Thanks for squeezing in and getting cozy this early morning. My name's Scott Hirsch. I'm the VP of Content Marketing at Get Satisfaction. We're a community platform. We're optimized around having conversations with customers anywhere they are, whether it be in your website, in your products, in social media, what have you. Our point of view on community is that community is made up of conversation, and conversations happen all over the place. And so we've tried to optimize so that we can enable our customers to have those conversations wherever is appropriate for them. I'm not really here to talk about Get Satisfaction. I'm here to introduce two of our customers. So I'll get to that in just a second. They're going to share case studies about how they're using our platform. But I wanted to give some opening remarks just around this whole idea of customer centricity. I found the keynotes yesterday really fascinating. I don't know about you guys. I hadn't gotten any sneak peeks into the B4B book, but it really aligned with a lot of the thinking that we've been doing at Get Satisfaction, particularly in the area of customer centricity. And what we've found, and we've been doing some research with some of our long-term customers we've had for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, is that customer centricity actually empowers the service organization to elevate outside of just being a place for one-to-one issue resolution and being a place where ideation and customer insight gets generated and where you can have your finger on the pulse of the most interesting concepts that you need to be introducing into your marketplace. So the B4B keynotes were just really illuminating for us. Of course, we're a SaaS company too, so the whole thing about level 3, level 4, and consumption-based pricing made a lot of sense to us as well. But I think underneath that story is the really interesting idea of just being a customer-centered organization, iterating really quickly, optimizing around adoption rather than around usage, or just simple implementation. I just found really, really fascinating. So I just wanted to open with that. Maybe we could discuss that in the discussion portion of the section if you'd like. I have one slide, really fast, just to let you know. A call to action for service organizations from our perspective is to be in the conversation business and to really maximize every appropriate opportunity that you have to have a conversation with your customer or your constituent. There's a lot of value inside the conversation. There's two key parts of value. There's value in the content of the conversation. So a really easy scenario to think about is question answer, right? So a question has an answer. That content has a long useful life because it's knowledge that other customers can leverage. That's just one example of the value in the content. The other piece of value in a customer conversation is in the insight that you derive about the person you're having a conversation with. And this probably isn't news to anybody here, but a community platform in particular is an amazing place to gather specific actionable insights about your customers and create an actual 360-degree view of your customer by bringing that data into your CRM or your other systems of record. So in a post-social world, and I've started using this term, I don't know if it's going to catch on with me or anybody else, but in a post-social world, community is not a destination, it's a series of conversations, and those conversations build trust in relationships. The reason I say post-social is just because I think the social media hype, we're through the hype and the buzz phase. And so now it's not necessarily about how am I going to have a presence in Facebook and Twitter. It's about how am I going to have social engagement with my customers, whether it's in Facebook, Twitter, a community platform, on my blog, on my website, wherever. It doesn't really matter. It's really about having a relationship with your customer, not necessarily just blasting messages to them in Twitter and Facebook. So that's the only slide I was going to show you, just to sort of tee up the conversation and get people thinking. I want to introduce you to two of our customers. Nathan Roth is what is your title exactly? Senior Manager of Digital and Social Marketing at Koodo Mobile. Koodo is a Canadian telecom. Nathan has basically created their customer community from scratch, and he has some really amazing metrics about the value they've been able to derive in their organization and change they've been able to facilitate throughout the organization through customer centricity. Before Nathan speaks, I actually want to introduce to you Kristen Gastaldo, who's a community manager for a company called Blackbaud Incorporated. Blackbaud provides software for nonprofits globally, right? You're a global company, yes. So very much in the B2B space. We tried to choose two different types of customers, even though the use cases are similar, one from B2B and one from B2C. I think you're going to notice that there's a lot to learn from the B2B versus B2C dichotomy, and there's a lot that's the same. So I think it's going to be a very well-rounded presentation, and you're going to get a lot out of it. So without further ado, let me just hand it over to Kristen right now.
You don't have to clap, it's just an intro. Okay, I'm not going to go anywhere, I'm going to stay close to the mic. So again, my name's Kristen Gastaldo, and I run a community for Blackbaud, which is a company that makes software for nonprofits. I actually run a specific community for just one of our products called Altru, and Altru is for arts and cultural nonprofits. So that's your theaters, your people that sell general admission tickets, like your art museums, your kid museums, theaters, aquariums. We're sorry. Little thing going around. So we're a pretty small product right now. We only started about 2.5 years ago, so it's a good test case for community for Blackbaud. Community is not something we actually do company-wide yet. At this point, it's something we're testing out. So because Altru has a small customer base, it was really something that we could roll out to just a few group of people, see if it was going to work, see if our customers were going to be into it. I actually think that I was kind of a test case for Blackbaud as well. This is actually my first corporate job. This is my first 9 to 5, my first time sitting in a cube, my first time with health insurance. You know, prior to coming to work at Blackbaud, I ran music venues. I spent the first 9 years of my career running everything from a 1,000-cap nice room to a 1,000-cap dirty rock club in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you might think that there are not necessarily a lot of parallels between music venue management and community management, but the more I work in the product and work with the community, there really are a lot of overlaps. You know, once you take away the late nights and the loud music and most of the drunk people, it really has a lot of similarities. So one of the first things that I noticed that's really similar is that you have to load in. So whenever the doors open at 8 o'clock and the crowd shows up, my day was really like 2/3 over. I came in at 10 a.m. when the band came in with their bus and trailer. The loaders unloaded the gear. The stagehand set up the stage. We sound checked with our sound engineer and their sound guy. The lighting director set up the cues. Security came in. Bartenders and barbacks came in. I put money in cash registers. The house lights were turned down and the house music was turned up. When the people got there, I'd already been there about 10 hours. And community is really the same. There's a lot of work that goes into launching your community and getting ready to have a community. You know, you have to pick a platform, you have to brand it, and you have to seed it to start with. Now for us, we really wanted to consolidate our resources. We had a lot of places customers could go for help. We had a knowledge base, we had user guides, we have 101 guides, we have a YouTube page, we have a video channel in addition to said YouTube page. We had Idea Bank for ideas. There was just too many options for our customers, so they would go to the one resource they probably remembered, and then they would just call us when they didn't find their answer. Now, you guys know that phone support is the least scalable option out there. So in order for us to grow our customer base without growing our support team at the same level, you really had to get people from this one-on-one support to a one-to-many support. So community was a good case for that. Now, an important thing for us was we wanted the community to be fully customizable and be able to integrate with our product. So we didn't want people to think they were going to a third-party source for help. So we picked GetSat, and you're able to customize your page so that it looks like blackbaud.com. So this is our community. And so when a customer goes from our product or from our website to our community, they don't feel like they're really leaving the product. We also were able to have a sign-on, single sign-on with GetSat and with the product. I'm sorry, not the product, with the website. So right now our customers have a login for blackbaud.com, and they have a login for the product. Had I asked them to pick a third login, I just don't know that they would have used it. That's a lot for people to remember to do. They already can't remember which password they have set up for those two. So we have single sign-on set up between our community and with Blackbaud. What we did with all those KB solutions and with the knowledge base and the idea bank and all of these how-tos, we pulled those in and we seeded our community. So when the customers got there was a ton of content that we knew that they were already looking at. Our popular KB solutions are in there, so the help is already in the document. I have a little video. Oh no. You might have to hit play for me. So I have a little video to show just kind of how it works. So basically somebody comes to the community, they go to sign in, it pops them over to blackbaud.com, they sign in, and they're taken back to community. So it's one single sign-on, so they don't have to remember anything else. And then when they go and ask their question, we actually have a federated search set up so that when they ask a question in the community, it searches the community and the user guides. So all of their resources are right there. Now, when they find their answer, it'll take them to the solution. And we happen to link all of our KB solutions into the questions. So they'll find their question, find the answer, click the solution, pop right back over. It's all one seamless process for them. And then we also were able to integrate GetSat into our in-product help so that when somebody's in the product and they click our little help button, they search the user guides and the knowledge and the community posts so that that's actually in the product. They never have to leave the product to get community help. And you have to do, if a band showed up and I didn't have any loaders there, it would be a pretty big deal. Bands don't like to move their own gear. I'm actually contractually obligated to provide a certain number of hands to load in for them. And the same was true of our community. I know ideally you want your community to be peer-to-peer support. You want customers answering their own questions. But for us, we were so focused on just getting people off the phones and into the community that we actually staffed our community with our support analysts. So people are going to use the fastest solution. And if the phone is the fastest, they're going to call. But if we have people in the community to answer their questions within minutes, they're going to save themselves that hold time. They're going to not have to navigate our phone tree. Our phone tree is second literally only behind the Department of Revenue. There are a lot of steps that people have to go through in the Blackbaud phone chain to get to us. So it was nice to give people the fastest response. And there's just a lot of these things that you have to do before the people get there. But if you do it, when they get there, they'll have a great experience and they'll want to keep coming back. Now, in the same way that you need loaders to load in gear, when people get there, you need security. How to be a bouncer. Do you guys know this joke? It's a PG-13 joke. I feel like I can share it. How to be bouncer. Number 1, be an asshole. Number 2, stand near a door. So you really, security, you probably don't notice them much at a venue. You show up, they check your ID, they check your purse to make sure you're not smuggling in like Sharpies or mini bottles or anything we're going to have to deal with later. And then maybe you see them at a door or between the barricade and the stage. You don't deal with security unless something goes wrong. We really try to do a good job of posting our signs so that you know what the rules are. You know, no crowd surfing, no underage drinking, no laser pointers. No laser pointers is a real rule. There is no faster way to make a DJ mad than to mess with his light show. So if that sign is up, don't bring it out. And usually, you know, what happens is the crowd kind of polices themselves. You don't have to do a ton of things. Now, of course, there are some things that that'll get you kicked out. You know, if you sneak backstage or light a joint in the middle of the dance floor or try to pee anywhere except the bathroom, security is going to put hands on you and we're going to take you out of the building. And the same is true in community. You post your rules. You tell people what the community's for, how we want them to use it, how we're going to treat you, what content is good there. We basically don't want people posting personal information about their own customers, their constituents, or credit card information because we do process cards. So there's a handful of things you can do. But for the most part, you let people do what they want to do in the community. It's fine to have negative stuff in your community. If people don't tell you what they don't like about your product or your process, then you can't fix it. So it's fine for customers to go in there and say, I hate this, it's cumbersome. At least then, now we know and we can start working on it. And a lot of times, the crowd kind of polices themselves. If somebody falls down in a mosh pit, other people get them up before we get there. A lot of times, if somebody's being obnoxious and jumping up on the backs of people's shoulders, then that person will turn around and be like, stop. You're being a jerk, don't do that. And then we don't even have to get in there. Community's kind of the same way. People will go in and say, hey, this is really obnoxious. Why would you guys set this up this way? I hate this process. And then one of our customers will come in and say, well, because of the way we do things, we need that extra step, so I'm glad that it's in there for us. Here's a workaround that you can do to stop having to deal with it yourself. So it makes it a little easier for them. Now, in the same way that you have to have people, you need people. Like, if you have security, you're going to need people. It's really true. Have you guys ever been to a concert with, like, 7 other people? It's weird. It's not fun. It's too personal. The band just kind of demands too much from you. You have to do the work of 100 fans instead of the one that you are. You kind of wonder, why does nobody know about this band? Should I be somewhere else tonight with something better going on? And the same is true with community. You need people. You need multiple conversations about different topics, things to keep people engaged. The Altru customer base was a good group to try this out on. So our product is a product that the entire organization uses. The front desk sells tickets, the the retail store sells items, the back office is using it for group sales and events, marketing people are sending out emails, so an entire organization uses one piece of software. And what that means is I have everybody from the CFO to the membership manager to the marketing director to the development director using the community. Now, what that also means is that there's content they're not interested in the community, which is fine because we divide up our product into categories in the community so that customers can go in and follow their specific areas of interest. They can get alerts about just constituent records or just about reporting so that all the content that is sent to them from community is relevant to them and interesting. Now, if I had, say I have a membership manager that comes in and they want to add a new level to their program. This is a way that they can come in and they can not only ask, hey, how do I do this in Altru, but they have a whole other realm of membership managers in the community. They can get feedback on, well, you're going to want to include this price point that sells really well for us. This benefit is done really well. They have a really powerful resource in that we have people that are doing the same jobs at the same type of organizations using the same product. And that's really powerful to have that kind of conversation in the community. So it's not necessarily all about our product. It's about their process as well. And you can't fake it. You know, some nice branding or some nice lighting doesn't hide the fact that there are like 30 people here. So how do we get people to use the community? We really make it part of the entire Altru experience. It's not a separate thing. It's part of our product. It's part of our process. This is actually our launch page. So we're a SaaS solution, so people go online to use the product. This is the launch page. We use the GetSat widgets to pull content onto the launch page to keep it interesting and relevant. What the little yellow box is the most recent update. So anytime I have news for our customers, I can post it as an update in the community. It feeds to my launch page, and they get that immediately without even going to the community, which is crucial if credit card processing or something goes down. I can get those alerts out to people without an email. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, there is the What's New in Altru. Right now, those topics are things that relate to our most recent release. I just tag things in the back end and then filter them in as I need. No coding required. I can sort those out and change them out anytime I would like to. So if I need feedback for new products, if our product management wants things for discovery, I can put it there. If I have conversations that just need some love, they need some interaction, I can put those there. And we have community up in the top corner as well, a link to the full thing. Also, as I mentioned before, it's in our in-product help. So it's really just part of the process. They're taught about the community from implementation. They're given their blackbaud.com login, which is their login to the community as well, and they go right from the beginning. We actually have 80% of the organizations that use the product in the community. Now, hopefully when you get people in the community, some people are going to like it. So you have to remember to thank your fans. At a certain level, every band is going to have like super fans. Like if you can bring 1,000 people in any city, you're probably going to have like 10 people who are super really excited about you being there. And those are people that would sometimes beat me to work. I would come in at 10 when the band was there, and they would be out there first. They'd be sitting at the front door, and they'd be wearing either the band's t-shirt or maybe the t-shirt that they made specific for this show. The doors would open and they would bum rush the barricade, and they would just stand there all night. And that's awesome. Like as adults, it's sometimes hard to get into things where we get a little bit too cool to be excited about things. So if you see people who are into things and they're actually going above and beyond to support something, you want to recognize them. You want to get those people a drumstick or a laminate sticky pass or the day sheet, just something to say, I recognize that what you're doing is awesome. I appreciate it. And the same thing is true in your product and in your community. They're your references for your product, and for our community, we call them our champions. You really want to find these people, and it's really not that hard, to be honest with you. We have analytics that show you what people are talking about, how often they post, what their mood is when they post. There's a rating scale in the community, so people can always rate if they like the product or if they had great support or whatever's going on with them. I have numbers that tell me their level of happiness, which is really nice. And then when you do find these people, you want to reward them for that. So this is Michelle. Here's a test case for us. So when Michelle joined the community, she started ranking up stars, and stars are good answers. So basically, if you have a comment and someone agrees with you, they can give you a star. I have a custom-built dashboard in my analytics that shows me who's getting these. And so Michelle started ranking up stars. So I reached out to her and interviewed her for a Member Monday, which is a recurring segment that I post in the community to just help customers get to know each other. It adds some context to conversations that you can go to Michelle's profile and see that she's worked at her org for how many years and what she does there, and so you can know that her answers are knowledgeable. And when I interviewed her, I realized that she was actually handling all of the change management at her organization, which is major for us because we're asking an entire organization to use the same software, which means everybody has to change, which is really terrifying for a lot of people. So I had her write a blog about it. And now she is one of our recurring bloggers. We use her frequently for her feedback on change management and how she has things going in her org. She's a product reference. We made her an Ultra Champion, which is a community champion. And we took her to BBCon, which was our conference. So once you realize what people are into, you can reward them. For us, what we've really found works is additional training. You know, we thought I also send baked goods. I find local things in people's area. I found that sweets tend to go over well with any crowd. But we sign them up for our mini series that always fill up. We actually get them additional training so they can become product experts, so that when we start to pull our support people out of the community, I actually have people in the community who are knowledgeable enough to answer those questions. They get to be beta testers for our new functionality. So whenever product management has, they want some feedback on something, they need some testers, I give it to our champions. Because to be honest with you, the only thing better than getting a copy of the set list at the end of the night is getting the chance to write it. So only the sound guy can change the sound. That sounds really simple, but you'd be surprised. I think everything is too loud. I've probably just been to too many shows. You know, if I go to a bar and there's a guy with one speaker, I gotta go. It's gonna be too much for me. And so you agree with me, you go to a concert and you think it's too loud. So you go to the front door where you know an employee is, it's where you just came in, and you say, hey, this is really obnoxiously loud. Can you do anything about this? And the girl at the front door is gonna go, yeah, it is really loud. Here are these earplugs. Hopefully that'll help you enjoy the show. You know, she can agree with you, she can sympathize with you, she can offer you some sort of help, but she can't turn the volume down. And the same is really true with our product. Only product management can change the actual product. So what we've done is we've really taken out the middleman between our customers and our products people. So that now that products goes in the community, customers submit ideas, they're ranked by votes, so products always knows what people are into. And then products can give direct feedback. So here's an example. Christina came in and she submitted an idea. Tui, one of our product managers, responds and says, hey, I really like this idea. I'd really like to do it. We're going to go ahead and plan on doing it. But then she comes back and says, well, our to-do list is rather long. So there are 10 things that we would like to do for you within the next 6 months. Which ones do you guys want first? And we let our community rank the ideas that are coming out. Christina's happened to be one of the more popular ones, and we implemented it. So the labels that you see on the idea too, you can see planned on there, that kind of comes with the platform. And so things are always either implemented, planned, under consideration, not planned. So customers always kind of know where they stand with their ideas. And while not planned kind of sucks, while it kind of is not fun to tell your customers that we're not working on things, just being transparent with what you are working on and why you chose to work on it goes a long way. So instead of a customer continually asking you, why aren't you fixing this, why aren't you fixing this, you can say, well, we have bigger fish to fry. I want to get to what you're doing, but I got to do these other 5 things first. And to be honest, some things you're just not going to do. You know, my product is general admission ticketing. And then I have people come in the community and say, I want to assign seats in my venue, and I want people to be able to pick their own seat online. That is great functionality. That is not what we do. It's never going to happen. So just being able to tell the customer, at least they know then, you know, say that you actually got in touch with the sound guy and you said, hey, this is obnoxiously loud. Can you do anything for me? And he goes, yeah, I agree it's obnoxiously loud. The band has their amps god-awful loud, and so the only thing we're even pushing through our PA is kick drum and vocals. So there's no way that he can actually make it quieter. And at that point, you know, the guy can just put earplugs in and enjoy the show. Or he can ask to speak to the manager. This happens quite a bit, to be honest with you. My favorite is when the underage people that get their ID taken away request to speak to a manager to get that back. You don't get your ID back. But it takes a lot of people to pull off a concert. There's loaders, engineers, lighting directors, Sometimes you have riggers, depending on what kind of gear you're building, security, door personnel, bar personnel. It's a piece of everybody's, it takes a lot of pieces to do this one job. But ultimately, it comes back to the GM to have everybody in the right place. So when the fire marshal shows up, he wants to speak to the GM. When there aren't enough loaders at load-in, even if you have a stage manager, that comes back to the GM. If the bar runs out of vodka in the middle of a sold-out show, even if you have a bar manager, it comes back to the GM. Somebody is in charge of this whole process. And the same thing is really true in community. It's a piece of everybody's job. Support analysts go in there and answer questions and solve problems. Products chimes in on their ideas. Developers and designers get in there as needed. But ultimately, it's one person's responsibility to make sure that things are getting done in there and that customers are using it. The health of the community relies on this one person. And there's a lot to be done. You do have to figure out what's going to work. You have to influence people to get them to your community and figure out what they're doing once they get there. You need to see why people are going. Is it the support topics? Is it the training updates? Is it the customer conversations? You have to try something and run some numbers. And every community is different. It really is trial and error. But you have so many analytics with the platform that you can try something and do the math, and then try something else and do the math, and then continue with the things that work and drop those things that don't. And to be honest with you, it's really rare that you have a job where you get to see the big picture. So many times people work as a little piece of the process. And so to have a job where you can put the right people in the right place and see what the greater picture is really, really rewarding. I mean, there were many nights when I would be just running crazy from my office to put money in the ATM, to take water to the barricade, to stand at the door because the security guy had to go break up a fight. And you're just running around crazy the whole night. And then for just a minute, it would catch you and you would hear it, and you would hear 1,000 people singing along to one song. And that is powerful, and it will stop you in your tracks. And for just that minute, you can stand there and watch the show. Thank y'all.
Good morning. So that's going to be one tough act to follow, no pun intended.
Maybe you won't sweat.
So as Scott introduced, my name's Nathan Roth, and I lead social and digital for a Canadian telecom. So if you catch me saying a boot, please don't laugh too hard. So I'm going to start with a quick spoiler here. In the next 20 minutes, what I'm going to share is how your company can save millions in innovation and support costs, how you can build an army of brand advocates, and how you can create a best-in-class customer experience, all through a community. So now that I jumped all the way to the end, let's go to the very beginning of the brand that I work for, Koodo Mobile. We started only 5 years ago, and we had the goal of fighting against the unjust and the greedy practices that we all know are all too common in telecommunications. And so in the last few years, we've actually been able to get rid of contracts, extra fees, and even long distance and roaming throughout the nation. But in order to do that, we needed to keep our costs extremely low. So we are looking for customers that are willing to give up a little bit of their time to save a little bit of money. So we needed to build in a culture of self-service from the get-go, where customers are expected to find their own answers and help themselves. And the other beautiful thing is that when we started, it was in the midst of the social revolution. And customers were excited because for the first time they could publish, and it gave them a voice, I should say people in general. And marketers and business folks were excited because they could have a dialogue, a true dialogue online with their customers for the very first time. It put both parties on a level playing field that allows for real, genuine interactions and dialogue. So we launched Facebook in 2010, and we're actually the first telecom to open up our wall. And customers loved this. They came in pouring in with their questions left and right, and we were hiring more and more Koodo reps to answer these questions. Unfortunately, what we soon realized is that one-to-one interaction is just as costly and time-consuming as a traditional phone call. So we needed to find a solution that was less reliant on our internal employees and was more efficient. We needed to keep those costs down. So we started to look at the options available to us. There was Twitter, there was chat, and then there were these community forums. And the latter really stands out and really stood out when it comes to reducing support costs. So when we put them side by side, that was just absolutely clear, and it wasn't even fair. But I won't bore you and go through all of these. I'll just share three. For one, Get Satisfaction is completely, has a complete responsive design. So whether you pull it up on your phone, your tablet, or your desktop, you get the full functionality. On the flip side, if you pull up in the Facebook app a brand page, you can't even ask a question. Another one is that Get Satisfaction is completely indexed by all the major search engines, including Google. And not only that, it has fantastic SEO. So you get a bunch of organic visits, in our case, millions. Whereas Facebook, your timeline and your wall is completely within the walled garden. And so that doesn't show up on Google at all, and you're missing out on a ton of visits. And then finally, once you're in there, Get Satisfaction allows you to search the content, so it has that knowledge base that you can draw upon, whereas Facebook doesn't have a search within it of the timeline. And so customers end up asking the same questions over and over and over again, sometimes within minutes of one another, and your reps need to answer them over and over. So what became abundantly clear to us is that Facebook was built really first and foremost for marketing and publishing, whereas communities were much more dynamic. They could handle support better, innovation, and much more. And best of all, if you look here on this graph, they're the most customer-focused of all the social networks and the most two-way. There's real, genuine dialogue, not just between Koodo and the brand, but customers between each other. So in September of 2011, we launched our community. And we chose Get Satisfaction because it has the cleanest and simplest user experience. And that really stands out. Much like Apple, they focus on what's really important and keep it clean, versus some of the other guys were focusing more on adding as many bells and whistles in there as possible, and it ended up making it complicated for customers. I like to think the community is so easy that if my grandma were to ask a question, or my young niece, that they'd be able to find an answer, unlike a traditional forum, which is very much for the tech savvy and the very knowledgeable. And so what we saw was that visitors started pouring in. In the first few months, it was actually absolutely exponential, which is actually off this graph a little bit. But what we're still seeing is that in this last year here is that there's steady growth, and we have no idea when it's going to end. In the last 3 months alone, we even saw record visits. But beyond just coming there, these customers, because Get Satisfaction recommends the right answers to you, allows you to search, is easy to navigate, integrates our FAQs. 99.6% of our visitors ended up finding their answer without even having to ask a question, which is hugely efficient. Only 0.4% had to ask a question. And so these guys came, they found their answer, and they left, and they went on. And I like to use a sports analogy here, where the best referee is the one that you don't notice. In much the same way, the best support is the one that's so quick, so painless and seamless that you go on your day and it's barely memorable. But of course, that 0.4% still adds up to quite a few questions because we're a telecom and we're quickly growing. So we wanted to figure out a way to have those remaining questions answered not by our Koodo reps, but instead by fellow customers. So we needed a way to get them to stick around and not just drive through. And so we added game mechanics for that added boost. And game mechanics, for those that aren't familiar, are the elements of video games that make them so addictive. Games, points, levels, missions. But they're all around us. They're not just in Super Mario Brothers. So by a raise of hands, how many of you are on LinkedIn? Pretty much everybody. What you may not have noticed is that in the right-hand side of your column is a profile completeness bar. And there's game mechanics integrated seamlessly throughout that website, to the point that most people just don't even really recognize that it's a game. So we see here 25% beside our profile, and we're competitive, and we don't like unfinished ends or loose ends. So we start adding our picture and where we went to school and so forth. And then we get to 100%, and we're satisfied to have that associated with ourselves. But most importantly, LinkedIn is over the moon about it because we've collectively, for free, built them the largest network of professionals there is that's now valued over $1 billion. So these things are really powerful. But this goes in stark contrast to what traditional economists will tell you, that you need to reward someone with cash incentive in order for them to do anything. But the reality is that social capital is just as motivating, if not more motivating. So game mechanics leverage the personal and the social motivators, such as competition, recognition, and reputation, that drives someone into action. So we integrated the game mechanics, and we kept hearing the same comment over and over again. I'm addicted to the Koodo community. But beyond that nice tap on the back, we saw some real business results where the rubber hits the road. We saw an increase in self-help of 15%. We saw active users go up 72%. We saw visits go up 42%. And the goal that we were really after, peer-to-peer support, customers sharing answers with fellow customers, went up 21%. And that was all just in the first 2 months. And so we saved a bunch of costs, which was great, but we wanted to save even more. We wanted to get that peer-to-peer all the way up, that every single question in the community was answered by a customer. So in all that gamification data that we got back, beyond those results, the most important thing we found actually was a little nugget of truth. And it hides behind this simple riddle here. What does the trucker of an 18-wheeler, a wealthy housewife, an intellectual PhD student, and a geeky mobile blogger have in common? Well, it turned out that they were our very best customers and our very best community members. And it's not what we expected either, and it's not who we target from a marketing perspective. That's for sure. But what we found out was that we had these super users that were providing the bulk of the answers. So not only were they big fans of Koodo, they were advocating us on their social networks, whether it was on or offline, but they were also customers on a mission to help fellow customers. They were hobbyists, they knew technology, they knew mobile phones, they knew them like the back of their hand, in fact, better than I know phones, or most of my colleagues even. But the real kicker is that they were spending, each of them, 15 hours a week in this Koodo community. It still blows me away today, and they're answering hundreds of questions. And that's exactly where we learned that one special secret. It's that you don't need everybody in your community for peer-to-peer support. You just need the few. You need the 1%, not the wealthy fat cats on Wall Street, but the super users in your community that are true fans, that are passionate, and they love it from a genuine place in their heart. So the question then became, how can we find more of these super users to get to 100% peer-to-peer support? And how could we get those that we already had to engage even more? And so we created a program we call the Mobile Masters, which is a community loyalty program that rewards those that provide the most support. Excuse me. And of course, if we go back to what we learned in gamification, we didn't want to pay them. So these guys are completely unpaid. But we do reward them with that emotional capital, which is really some exclusive perks and rewards. So for example, we really put them on a pedestal. So digitize them, put them in front of our customers, and they get that status and that bragging rights for something that they really love, their passion and their hobby. So they're made to be the experts that they really and truly are. And they're rewarded for all that volunteering work to help us help our customers and to help us keep our costs down. But we also give them access to programs and access to people. So when we launched our new application, we involved them during the development phase. We took their feedback and we incorporated it, for example. Also, time to time they have a gripe and they want to air it. We connect them with the subject matter expert in our company so that they can have that direct conversation. And sometimes the SME agrees with them, and sometimes they don't. But what's important is that they have that conversation. And sometimes it's even gone as far as the person responsible is our CEO. And these everyday customers have had a conversation with our CEO. So, but what's really important here? Well, in the first month alone, we saw more super users join us than we had in the previous 12 months combined. We quickly became the most active and visited support community in telecommunications in Canada, which is no small feat considering how young we are and small we are relative to our competition. And best of all, this one blows me away, we basically got there. Over 99.9% of our visitors get help without the involvement of a single employee, whether it's a rep or a management employee. And not only that, they got it within an average of under 12 minutes. So these customers, or mobile masters, are basically crawling over each other, fighting to get the answer so that they can get more points and that they can get even higher status than their fellow masters. And so we saw massive reductions in support costs, all the way up to the point that we saw a 44% increase in call deflections year over year. But support is not everything that a community can do, and there's much more. And part of it is the customer experience. So, like we just discussed, there's traditional support. Someone has an issue, we identify it, it gets resolved, in our case, from a peer. But really progressive systems are ones that prevent these issues. They instead find the root cause of the problem that's underlying in that question that a customer had or the problem that they have identified. And then it gets fixed so that the hundreds or thousands of customers that come after them don't have to ask that same question and don't even experience that same pain point. So we created a listening program across our entire company. So every single employee in our company gets a custom report to their responsibilities based on what's heard in social media and most importantly in our Get Satisfaction community, where the feedback is long form, there's multiple people adding their take and their opinion, unlike a tweet that's 140 characters and usually someone just saying that they stubbed their toe. Or in our case, F Koodo. So these reports then get sent to the subject matter expert at whatever interval they want. So in an example here, John, our pricing manager, he launches a new rate plan into the market. And he immediately then gets feedback on only that rate plan pulled into the custom report. And he knows what's wrong, what's working, if he should change something. But best of all, he gets an opportunity to fix it. We actually call these pain points treasures in our company, because if you are made aware of a problem that exists, it's a great opportunity to improve the customer experience. And that's really what this does at the end of the day. It allows every single customer or every single employee rather, in your company to take ownership and accountability for their impact on the customer experience. But beyond that, we also wanted to actively partner with our customers and use the wisdom of crowds. And the great thing about Get Satisfaction is that not only does support come out of the box, but as does a great ideation or crowdsourcing platform. And so it was already running and working, so we just needed to guide our customers there and let them know that it existed. And we got, and they really appreciated it. It made them feel heard and that they were listened to. And so there's a couple of wins that have come out of this. One is that we have thousands of ideas that have been submitted so far. But beyond that, we've actually been able to fix 74 of them, and we plan on fixing many more. And that's really allowed us to make our customers feel heard and appreciated. But most importantly, it improved the customer experience to the point that Koodo is now, as you can see there, the JD Power winner. But what that means is that we're Canada's favorite telecom, we're the fastest growing telecom, and we have the highest satisfaction rates and word of mouth by a country mile relative to our competitors. So our Get Satisfaction community has really transformed our business at the end of the day, our marketing, our support, our innovation. And so I want to leave you with one thought, and that's that, and I truly believe this, communities on or offline are the most powerful opportunities and tools that we as people and businesses have today. They helped us reduce one of the largest costs of any business, one-to-one support, and they also allowed us to innovate and create a best-in-class customer experience. So please, if you can, start a community, and if you have already, really double down and invest in it. Start it, do it, you need it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we've got about 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A. I was just going to have our speakers come and just any questions from the audience or the floor. Feel free. Yeah.
Excuse me, I'd be curious from both of them how they integrated the social media you hear about feed into the community. It sounds like this is a destination for many people. So how did any integration through Twitter or LinkedIn get that back into the community?
So for us at Koodo, it is a destination, but it's also deeply integrated throughout our website. Get Satisfaction allows you to quickly, within minutes, create widgets that you can place throughout your website by cutting and pasting the copy, or the code, I should say. But beyond that, everywhere in our marketing and every piece of communication, we point customers to the community. We don't point them to email. We don't point them to chat, Twitter, or Facebook. And that's probably the biggest way to get the customers over there.
But is there any integration, though, between some of the social sites and your community? I mean, at the base level, do you feed a tweet stream into it? If they post something on LinkedIn, do they come into, does that feed into your community?
Yeah, we don't personally use the functionality of bringing in some of the social elements, such as Facebook and Twitter, but it is available. There's social sign-on, so most of our customers log in through Facebook or Gmail.
We actually just don't have separate branded pages. We have Blackbaud has a company-wide Facebook page, so as far as bringing it into our all-true community, it just doesn't necessarily overlap. We've pulled from the community for other things in social, like I host weekly Skype chats with our customers, and I advertise that in the community and pull them into another resource. But we don't have integration. You guys.
Yeah, these two customers don't use it, but we do have social media integrations. We have an out-of-the-box solution with Hootsuite, but we have customers that have created custom integrations, and the way that they use those is they basically do it two ways. One is they monitor social media for any conversations that they would prefer to be having in their community, and they basically just tweet out a topic link to those people, and they say, hey, come back to our community and let's continue the conversation there, because they feel like the conversation is more valuable when it happens in the community. And then the other way that they use it is sometimes they'll tweet out a response to a customer question with a link to the appropriate community answer.
Yeah, actually, I just want to double down on that because I completely forgot about that. We launched that last week, and it works. And it works fantastic because not only can it takes the tweet and it through keyword analysis, it'll find the right content that already exists in your community. So a rep can just click on that content, and then it'll send them an automated reply, which you can customize if you wish, but it'll say something along the lines of, hey, great news, we found your answer in our Koodo community, and then it sends the link directly to that thread. So it's very efficient. Yeah.
I had a couple of questions. Do you use chat?
We do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. And then second, one comment, I would argue that your mobile telecom company is probably saving people time.
Yeah,
more so than
definitely.
Traditional, because my time is more valuable. I'll pay extra to save my time right now in my life.
Yeah.
And I would argue, I hate the phone. I would argue that the community and the chat are tools that save me time. And then, fortunately, I don't have to deal with my mobiles through work. I just go upstairs to the IT department. Do the traditional, do the traditional companies that you're competing against are they converting over to community? Are they getting the message and trying to make that move, would you say?
Yeah, so our parent company, which is equivalent to probably Verizon here in the States, has adopted a community, and they're putting a lot of dollars and attention behind that. It's a huge priority for them. And slowly our competitors are starting to notice that the Get Satisfaction community is a much better place for them to handle their support-related questions at the very least.
That's really good.
Our competitors are using community as well, but theirs are really locked down. Like you can't even see any of that content, whereas we have ours out there, where customers have to log in to use it, but anybody can read. So prospects can actually see our community, see the conversations, see the ideas, see the interactions.
That's a really great point. A lot of our B2B customers use their community content as sort of a source of inbound marketing where prospects can go in and they can see the level of service that people are getting inside of the community, and they can see what types of questions customers are asking, and they use it in a marketing context as well. Is there any? Yeah.
Maybe an obvious question for our communities is, especially the smaller threads or the less popular threads, the quality of the responses from a non-employee. And I realize scoring helps with that. If I see a reply from a low score person, I might not trust that reply. But that's one of the issues we have in our community is having to have that bouncer or a moderator at least. So how much moderation do you do to make sure the qualities are good, or is that had to go away as you've gotten your super users?
We do a ton, but mostly because my product is hard. It is a large product, and a lot of the questions that come in, other customers couldn't necessarily answer. So we do a lot of moderation, and it's nice to have the option to tag things as official, which is a tag in our community. So anybody can give an answer, but I can come in and I can mark somebody's answer as official. It'll pop it up to be the first response, so customers always get the one that is company validated, good response.
Official makes sense.
Yeah. And there's a way of, if other people agree with an answer, so if a post gets 3 people agreeing with it, that'll pop up as well, so that you can see the company response and the promoted response.
But you still do it, even with the large number of super users still.
I do.
Do you have the moderator too, or do you?
Yeah, that's pretty much all we employ at this point. They're moderators, and they don't really answer questions.
They're the bouncers.
They go in and they say that answer is right, and they mark it as official.
Any other question? Yeah.
A couple of questions on the moderation and then one on the feature set. So on the moderation, does that need approval before posting, or do they just follow up in moderating to mark something, official and sanitized and all that? That's question one. And then question two, I think for you, is what's the video integration like within Get Satisfaction? I didn't see too many examples.
Yeah, I'll answer mine really fast because that's easy. You can embed a YouTube video in any Get Satisfaction conversation, either in the initial post or as a reply. We have a lot of customers that do that.
We actually use a ton of Jing videos. So we tell our customers if they get stuck in a process, they'll actually run they'll record their screen and show us where they are and post the actual video in the community, which saves a ton of back and forth conversation for where people got lost. So yeah, just uploading a video right to the community works. Your question about moderation as far as, nobody,
Yeah, I mean,
nobody has to be approved. If they submit a question or a response, the moderator doesn't have to okay for it to go live into the community. It
So
goes
they
automatically.
just go in when they have time, the moderation?
Oh, I have staff assigned, so we have, because we have so many support questions coming in, I actually have our staff, our analysts that rotate on chat support, they double up community and chat support. So if they're not on phone support and they're not on like backline support, they're handling chat and community.
Yeah, in much the same way, our email reps will do that, and they'll do it during call center hours.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just have a quick question. We're just getting into a community, and I think one question that I've been thinking about is, we have a paid support model,
Yeah.
and wondering, I guess, to be blunt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how- If we're too effective in the community,
Yeah, yeah,
will
yeah.
customers leave the paid support to go there?
Yeah. That's such a great question.
Yeah.
I could do a whole presentation on that. I mean, our
That time-
Yeah, our customers who have that scenario, they actually use the community as almost like a teaser, in terms of like, this is the kind of great support that we're going to be providing for you if you pay for additional support. And so we recently released a new piece of functionality. It's actually not, it hasn't even been announced, so I'm sort of like previewing it with you guys right now, where you can have private sub-communities inside of your public umbrella community. And so one of the use cases for that is actually like these VIP or tier 2 support environments that you actually need a login to get into, and you have to have access. And so we have a couple of customers that when we've sort of been introducing that new functionality coming out, they're like, oh, that's really interesting. We might even charge for access to those, private communities. So it's almost like you get the same benefit of the community, but you can create sort of a an exclusive area that's the entry point to a higher level of service and support.
It's so much about preference too, because I have people that I can't get off the phone. The phone support is fantastic. They're always going to call, even
Right.
if the community support is faster. They will sit on hold while they're chatting with somebody else and just like, oh, phone picked up, I'll see you later, and do the phone call instead. So even if your level of service is great in community, some people they like that one-on-one, actually talking to a person, even though you're talking to the same people in the community.
I think we got time for one more quick one. Yeah.
Do you have any customers that do charge for this service?
Oh, wow. Probably. I don't know off the top of my head.
Private portal kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk to you offline about that. I could find one for you and tell you the exact scenario. I'm 95% certain that we do. I just can't think of the scenario right off the top of my head.
Our support is something that we charge for, and we just rolled out some kind of like starter versions of our product, and the only support they're going to get is community, and it's going to be tiered support.
Yeah.
Upper levels, but we charge for support.
Yeah. Before I let you guys go, I wanted to let you know that we have a booth in the expo hall. It's right to the left as you walk in, over by the bar in the afternoon. So feel free to grab a cocktail and come and talk to us. I'm going to be on a panel with John Ragsdale, Joe Cothrell from Lithium, and Rob Shapiro from Oracle. It's called Stump the Panel, and it's just about community best practices. It's at 2 p.m. this afternoon. It should be really interesting, so feel free to come back for that panel if you like. So thank you so much.
Thank you.